finally come to this. The fourth puzzle bubble. Truth to be told, the original vid didn't age worse than the previous ones. It's the one that's somewhat the most watchable, but I still wouldn't if I were you. But anyway, the fourth one is the one I revisited the second most, right below the second one, of course. And it wasn't because it was my favorite, rather, it had something that kept me coming back. It certainly brought a fresh new life after three pretty much left it to dry out completely. And so, just like the previous games in this marathon, I'm giving my brand new updated thoughts. This is Puzzle Bobble Fruit. The story this time is as follows. Bob and Bob live on the planet Bobaluna. Real creative. However, one day the sun fails to rise. Ah, great, this is Rocket Doodle all over again. Actually, it turns out to be the work of Cleon, the Fairy of the Night, and as it turns out, this was done for Madame Luna. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But fool me three times, you cannot. Especially when it's just a disguise for drunk once again. The only thing missing is making Dr. Wily somehow involved in this. So Madame Luna splits the rainbow into 7 light bubbles and 10 characters are all set out to get it, each with different reasons. Okay, so normally I don't do this, but if I were to talk about the cutscenes, I also need to talk about the elephant in the room. I told you to get out, leave, leave.
Okay, jeez, you don't have to be so nasty about it.
So, for whatever reasons, the cutscenes seem to be more static in the arcade version, whereas in the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast version, characters seem to be more expressive. This is especially odd since, in my opinion, the game's writing is actually really funny. I especially find it odd that during the game itself, they do have the characters in mode. My only guess may have something to do with the fact that the arcade version came out first before the console version. But since the arcade version bizarrely strips these characters of any emotion during cutscenes, it more often than not ruins these funny jokes. I haven't seen butchering this bad since the Animal Farm movies. So just like Puzzle Bobble 3, you have many characters to choose from, and each of them have their own status. But just like 3, I still don't quite feel the difference between these characters. At this point, I'm wondering if it even is worth including these stats if they don't affect the game much. Starting off with versus mode, the gameplay remains unchanged from 3, but the graphics are sort of a mix between 2 and 3 by having the style of 2 and the colors of 3. So while the characters are super expressive, the colors don't exactly help to match. So what you end up with are graphics that look good but not great. And the mini broken English especially doesn't help. What the hell is a Nister? Now play is about over. We will seriously light? The gameplay is about the same as it was last time, but there's only one difference. And that difference is pretty big too. They injected chaos into the chain ups. Not only can both you and the opponent do it, but thankfully it isn't exactly overkill, even if admittedly this is still a bit much to the point where just launching a bubble would feel like more junk bubbles would be added your way. It's a bit much. In fact, a bit of a problem I have is that enemies can get really cheap with this. Not all the time, but it is easy to get a surprise chained up and get a game over as a result. And admittedly, that can be frustrating. But when you do get it, it can be satisfying the first time. But at some point during the many times later, the magic is gone. I never thought I'd say this, but this can make versus mode feel a bit underwhelming. It's kind of the opposite of Puzzle Bobble 3, where that one is unfair. This one is more so, well, not entirely easy, but it is significantly easier than the previous entries. And there's no better way to show that than the final boss, Madame Luna and Drunk. Do I have to? Ugh, fine. Well, compared to the previous games, it didn't take as much attempts to beat both forms. This is the only one where I'm sort of happy considering how hard his previous fights were, but I still can't help but to feel a bit miffed. What happened here? This versus mode had a good idea with its chaining up mechanic, but clearly they needed more time in the oven. There's only so much a good idea can carry if its execution lets it down, and that's exactly what the versus mode of 4 is. But on a lighter note, the puzzle mode is fun once again. This time the new mechanic is that of a pulley system where the more you place on one side, the heavier it gets, and the more you get rid of, the lighter it gets. It allows for some really fun puzzles that fully take advantage of this. And just like the one in Puzzle Bobble 3, I was fully on board with this from start to end. So, besides the fact that I mentioned the console version is better than the arcade version, besides that, how was Puzzle Bobble 4 on its own? It's disappointing. For all the good that it does, it still falls on the same pitfalls as Puzzle Bobble 3. And for one of those pitfalls, it actually ends up being the complete opposite. Instead of being harder, it ends up way easier, which leaves 4 feeling rather unfulfilling, uneventful, and worst of all, underwhelming. If this is your favorite, or even if you like this one, more power to you, honestly. It's just that Puzzle Bobble 4 for me personally just doesn't do much.
And let's turn off this godforsaken game.
Please.
But with that being said, it's just great to have this marathon finally over with. You know, revisiting these games and giving a brand new, fresh, updated thoughts. This was Joseph from Joseph's World and Hayonka.
And let's turn off this godforsaken game.
Please.